Well, hello there. It's great to see you again, and welcome back to the latest installment of Optimizing Your Financial World. I am your host and moderator, Ryan Ruff. It's great to be back with you guys today. And as always, we have our star of the show. That's Mr. Mark Wade, the president of Echelon Family Office. He's standing by. He'll be jumping on board with me in just a moment for another wealth management discussion. That's what we tackle here on the show. And if you've been spending some time recently with us here in season two, Mark and I recently we released an episode that surrounded the idea of longevity planning. You know, this conversation that we're having these days surrounding the idea of your wealth plan and making sure that it can see you through what might be an even lengthier retirement than you had initially anticipated for. Well, today we're kind of staying in that same vein of a conversation. We're talking about some smart money moves to make while you're still mentally sharp. So, what do we mean by this? Well, as we age, many of us are going to experience some cognitive decline. In some cases, it's minor, but in other cases, it can be major, and that's important to note. So today, Mark and I are going to be looking at some, different ways to potentially safeguard your wealth, safeguard your assets from maybe some wealth-destroying mental money mistakes that can happen when that time comes. So, really interesting conversation we've got for you guys today. A lot of good nuggets of information, that you could factor into your wealth plan while you're still mentally sharp to ensure that you can make it through, maybe that lengthier retirement that you had anticipated for. So, with that being said, let's bring Mark out and get right into it. Mark, it's good to see you today. How you doing?
Oh, great, Ryan. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good, Mark. I always look forward to getting together with you. We've got some great topics that we've been covering on this show lately, and this is an interesting one, Mark. It's this idea of smart money moves to make while you're still mentally sharp. And Mark, it's tough to admit it, but the fact is that many people can and do lose their ability to make really well informed decisions as they get older. Talk to me. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, absolutely. None of us really wants to think about losing our mental edge later in life, right? But it's really something that we need to consider because, oftentimes people experience some type of decrease in their, financial decision-making abilities and that mental sharpness kind of escapes us, oftentimes, sometimes in the 70s, maybe, sometimes even as early as in the 60s. So, when you consider that, you know, I think the number's like 10,000 Americans are turning 65 every day, and the baby boomers are going to hit that age, pretty much all of them in the 2030s. The issue of cognitive decline and then its potential negative impact on wealth, right? How much money that we're able to maintain. It's really a serious one that many of us will probably have to deal with in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so Mark, have you seen what a loss of mental sharpness can mean when it comes to making decisions about our wealth or other financial related matters?
Yeah, unfortunately, the academic research shows us that, our ability to be good stewards of our wealth is likely to decline as we reach into the 70s and again, maybe as early as the 60s. For example, financial literacy scores uh, typically decline, after age 60, and the annual rate of decline with these scores, can be significant and similar among a variety of different cohorts that they studied. For example, not just men and women, right? But when they studied just stock owners and people that with just college degrees, the results are really amazing. And the financial decision making peaks for most of us in our early to mid 50s, and the investing skills start to decline sharply. I said sometimes 70s, sometimes as early as 60s. And one ironic thing, an unfortunate thing, is that bankruptcy filings among that group rise the fastest among those aged 70 and older. So, even a mild decline in the cognitive performance uh, can result in, diminished financial capabilities. It's something you really need to be aware of.
All right, well let's unpack this a little bit then, Marco. What can people be doing, to potentially mitigate that risk of making maybe mental errors that could negatively impact their financial well being? What do you have for us today?
No secret here, right? Because it's a theme that plays out in just about everything you and I talk about all the time, Ryan, and that is start as early as you can. Start early, don't wait. The ideal time to be thinking about how to protect your assets, from a negative impact of a cognitive decline is well in advance of when that need arises, well before you start to decline. Based on that same data, um, you know, during our late 40s and early 50s for most of us, is really when we should take serious look at this. Hopefully before you're staring down dementia or some other type of cognitive health crisis. The fact is you can't make a legally binding contract. You can't set up a will or any other type of legal documents like a power of attorney or a trust unless you are considered to be sound mind. You have to have a sound mind. So and that essentially means that you understand the consequences of your decisions, and that you're acting out of your own free will. If you're going to wait until cognitive decline has clearly taken hold of you, the ability to put legal documents and strategies in place could well be denied to you, and your ability to plan is gone at that.
Mark, and we talk about it a lot on this show. It's that first step that can be the most daunting step and the hardest one for people to take. So, when you get started, and hopefully that is on the earlier side of your age, what would you say are the first steps that most people should be considering?
My clients and those people who choose to become my clients are probably sick of hearing this, but we say it over and over and over. Simplify your financial life. Just like you simplify all other things in your life, simplify your financial life because it's going to be easier to keep track of your finances when you consolidate accounts that you have all over the place and do it under one roof. For example, you might place some or all of your investments with a single trusted advisor or merge both multiple bank accounts into one bank account. Think of it as like a house cleaning. Think of it as clutter reduction. It not only can potentially help you, but it can also help those who will be of assistance to you later on, such as a family member or another type of advisor, in case they need to step in and assist you down the road. Another way of considering simplifying your financial life is to emphasize investments and other kind of financial solutions that are relatively straightforward and easy to understand and easy to navigate. It makes the ability to make complex decisions later on as we're fading in age. It makes it easier for us if the circumstances surrounding the decision you have to make are simpler to start with.
Sure, sure. And Mark, you mentioned something really interesting that I think it's important to hit on, and that's advisors and family members as you're approaching this side of your life, the later side that is. How important is it in your eyes for you to be open with them about your financial situation and their wishes about your financial situation, when you're up against these cognitive declining issues? How important is that communication?
This is another one of those topics that keeps popping up over and over and over again, right, Ryan? You need to have these conversations. We call them clarifying conversations. You really need to have them. You have to sit down with those people that you're going to hopefully will help you navigate through your life if an incapacity, sorry, were to happen. If your ability to make financial and other types of decisions become diminished, you need to you have to identify who those people are going to be that are going to help you make good financial and healthcare and other types of decisions if a serious mental or physical health issue should occur. You have to discuss your wants, your needs, and your values with those people. And, you should also consider that these future caregivers and decision makers, know today what your goals are, as well as how you want to be helped in the future. So they can prepare themselves to honor your wishes when that time comes. So as you drive, deeper into these topics, come up with a caretaking plan that's going to spell out when and you want family members, assisted maybe with your advisor and other trusted people, to help take the reins from you, to help in those situations where you're just not able to do it yourself anymore. And it's also a good time to open up and share some of the aspects of your financial situation and strategies and the plans you have with your heirs. That way, they're going to have a good understanding and thinking behind the various key financial decisions you made up to that point in time. You might even consider allowing them to monitor some of your accounts through a financial portal so they can be watchful for transfers or withdrawals that look suspicious now. It's another set of eyes sometimes is a good thing. We understand it can be sensitive, but what's worse is to not have prepared in advance.
Amen to that. And Mark, let's get into the X's and O's here now in terms of the formal documents or legal steps. What should people be considering on this front?
Well, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, Ryan. This is kind of where what your intentions are going to meet up with the execution, right?
Hmm.
It's important to set up the legal documents, okay, and to review any existing ones that you already have in place. Some of the key documents that you're going to consider having in place, in the event that you experience some type of physical or cognitive decline, they're obvious. For example, a will, right? But some of the other ones maybe are not so obvious. And some people, it's amazing how many clients come into our office or when they become clients and they don't have what we call a full set of all the basic legal documents. The will, another one is the durable power of attorney for finances, right? This is going to allow, someone you appoint or multiple people that you appoint to manage your financial affairs if they need to. Without this durable power of attorney, no one can legally handle key financial duties like paying your bills, making decisions about investment accounts, and other such things. Instead, your family would have to go through a long and lengthy and perhaps expensive court process in order to get the ability to help you financially. Another example of a document that's so important is a healthcare directive. This is the document that spells out with clear intentions to other family members and physicians about your preferred healthcare decisions and and related matters. Effectively removing your family from having to make life and death choices without you and without any of your guidance. So, one of these, for example, is a living will, which formalizes your wishes for end of life care, surgery, ventilators, feeding tubes, and the like. Another one is a healthcare power of attorney, which gives someone, you know, the ability, someone that you choose, the authority to access your medical records and make medical decisions on your behalf if the event happens where you're unable to do so. And which leads maybe to another type of document called a living trust. Uh, you know, uh, a revocable living trust can allow you to name a successor trustee who can take control of the assets in that trust if you become mentally or physically incapacitated. The trustee, can invest these assets as well as distribute money from the trust to benefit you as the grantor of the trust. Okay, and other beneficiaries that you've named in the trust, such as your family members and people that you care about.
Sure. And Mark, this has been a lot of great information for our audience today, diving into some of these strategies and solutions and things to consider. But on the flip side, I think it's equally as important to talk about maybe some of the mistakes or the items that are overlooked by so many people going through this process. What would you say are some of those steps that people do tend to overlook or not implemented as well as they could when they're faced with this, this time in their life?
Well, this is as important as all the other things, really. You think about it, it's a simple thing, but it's such an important step to ignore is to compile your key documents and your other important financial information and legal information so that other people can easily access them, the people that you give the permission to do so. So if someone eventually needs to, help in making a financial decision on your behalf, it's best to make it easy for them to step into that role to make those decisions for you. And to that end, one of the things we think about is start to compile a comprehensive inventory of all your key financial information. Tell somebody you trust. Ideally, this person is going to be on board with helping you when you need the help. So it's probably going to be a family member, friend, or maybe even an attorney. Tell them the location of this paperwork or the digital file and all the other details. By the way, digital assets are so commonplace nowadays. It's important to make sure you have that in all the different financial documentation you're going to provide. So, the specific information that you compile are really going to depend on the details of your financial situation, but they're probably going to include things like assets, for example, details for checking accounts, investment accounts, annuities, business interests, real estate, beneficiary designations on any qualified plans and IRAs, things like retirement accounts, the liabilities that you still maintain, such as mortgages, credit cards, and other types of recurring expenses, life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, and other policies that are going to be so critical when they're needed, desperately needed. Contact information for the key people and advisors. Make sure that it's your designated helper is going to be able to know how to contact your accountant, your wealth managers, your lawyers, your physicians, and then that digital information that we spoke about. And I mean by that, I mean IDs and passwords and pins for financially related websites, that you use on a regular basis, and even those that you don't use. It's more important to have those things available. And then the location of, let's say, your most important documents like the will, that has an original signature, durable powers of attorneys, deed for your house, car titles, and any safe deposit box, locations and keys and information. It's all important that you have somehow consolidated this information so it's found easily and it's accessible by those trusted individuals you designate.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. I can see how that one can get overlooked. Just making sure things are easily accessible for the people that you put in place to help you when that time comes. But Mark, look, as we're bringing our conversation to a head here today, I think it's worth acknowledging the good news here is that there is so much that people can be doing right now to potentially set them up for success if they begin to experience some sort of cognitive decline down the road. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with today?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's kind of like death and taxes, right? Those two inevitabilities. Well, it's the same with this one. As long as we're alive, we're going to get older. We can't stop the aging process. So it's kind of a good thing and an unfortunate thing. But the unpleasant truth is that many of us, are going to likely suffer some kind of cognitive decline. So by first being honest with ourselves about that possible outcome, and then taking some actions, aimed at minimizing the potential for making wealth erasing mental mistakes later on, and working in partnership with that, family member or trusted advisor to help you do so, you can seek to protect the assets you've worked so hard to build and grow over your lives. And so, that's the last thing I'll leave you with really is, all of us, or I should say, all of us are going to get older, and some of us are going to experience some type of mental decline that we need to prepare for.
Well, Mark, I know there's a lot of good stuff in today's conversation. I appreciate you carving some time out to be with us. And Mark, if anybody out there in our audience is interested in reaching out to you and your team to just talk up further about this conversation and maybe start making some of those smart money moves while they're still mentally sharp, what would be the best way they could get in touch with you and your team?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. They could check us out on the web at www.echelonoffice.com. That's ECHELON, the word office.com. They can contact me directly at mwade, that's MWADE, at echelonwealth.com, ECHELON, the word wealth.com. Or they could call into our office, 888-892-9882.
Oh, fantastic, Mark. Well, look, again, appreciate you carving some time out to be with us today, and I'm excited to be back with you on the next one.
Hey, I really appreciate it, Ryan. It was a great conversation today, and I'm looking forward to the next one also.
Fantastic. Well, look, hey, and before we leave, we also want to say a quick thank you to our audience, you guys, for hanging out and being with us on the show today. If you enjoyed today's conversation, maybe you benefited from it in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on whichever platform that you checked us out on today. That way, you never miss another episode that's upcoming. I've said it once, and I'll continue to say it again, and that is we're tapping into Mark's nearly 4 decades worth of experience in the financial services sector. We're talking the same strategies, solutions, and really just conversations that Mark is having with his clients on a regular basis. And we're bringing them right here to you guys on this show. And by subscribing to the show, that way you can never miss out on a future conversation that could be beneficial to you and yours. So for Mark, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate you guys being with us here on today's installment of Optimizing Your Financial World.